And Iceberg is mostly talking and explaining the entries, so it's like the perfect format for me. And I was thinking, what's something I know enough about that I could confidently explain, but hasn't been covered a bunch already? So I decided zombies in general could be a cool idea. An Iceberg, information's organized from top to bottom, yada yada. Grab your diving gear, ladies and gentlemen, because we're gonna be exploring the frigid waters of the abyss. You can probably skip most of this tier because if you're watching this video, you've probably played or seen at least one of these, but I'll quickly mention some notable, iconic ones. Plants vs. Zombies probably introduced most people to the tower defense genre. 49 different plants you can choose from to defend your house from zombies with wacky, hilarious abilities like riding dolphins, a football player, one driving a Zamboni, paired with majestic art and music. Call of Duty Zombies is an addicting experience. It's easy to pick up but hard to master. People are trying to set records on it all the time, trying to figure out new ways to optimize their run and how long they can go. Another classic from the golden era of gaming. The fungus from The Last of Us is real. The fungus from The Last of Us that infects people and turns them into clickers, walking mushroom colonies, is called cordyceps. And this is an actual fungus that exists in real life. However, it's harmless to humans and only infects ants. How it works is ants will brush up against something in their environment with spores on it or eat something with spores in it, contracting this fatal fungus. The fungus controls the ant somehow and makes them want to go anchor themselves on a leaf. They bite down as hard as they can with their mandibles and they're basically paralyzed in place. After a few days, the fungus will burst out of the ant's head and release its shower of spores to continue the cycle. We don't really have to worry about it affecting people even if it mutates, because an insect's brain is way simpler than a human's. The chemicals and signals they use to manipulate an insect probably doesn't work on a bigger animal. Dancing zombie change. In Plants vs. Zombies, one of the enemies you can encounter is a dancing zombie. He moonwalks onto the lawn and then summons 4 zombies who will move in sync with him. But what you may not know is this zombie didn't always have a disco design. In some very old Plants vs. Zombies videos, you can see a zombie that looks like Michael Jackson. This was originally a reference to his Thriller music video, but a few months after Plants vs. Zombies released, Michael Jackson unexpectedly passed away, and then this reference was removed because it was seen in poor taste. PopCap got in legal trouble with Michael Jackson's estate, and they had to redesign the dancing zombie. However, there's mods that patch this zombie back into the game if you really miss it. Sunny. Sunny is a Flash RPG game starring the main character Sunny, who is an intelligent zombie. The gameplay is an RPG similar to Persona or Final Fantasy, where you have party members and you take turns attacking or using items. You basically help Sunny find his friends and defeat other zombies. This game is kinda old, and I haven't seen anyone mention it before. Lollipop Chainsaw. For the Xbox 360 and PS3, Lollipop Chainsaw is an absolutely deranged game. Juliet Starling is a cheerleader who knows magic. She uses this to save her boyfriend who was bit by zombies. He lived, but now he only exists as a severed head, and you carry him around and use him to solve puzzles or help you in combat. You travel through the city and you fight a big zombie boss at the end of each area. This is a more silly, goofy game. It's not trying to be scary like Dead Space or Resident Evil. Basically the South Park of zombie games. Left 4 Dead concept. The original idea for Left 4 Dead was created by Turtle Rock Studios developers who were playing Counter-Strike Source. They spawned a bunch of bots who could only use melee weapons and basically just tried to survive the onslaught. They actually found this was a lot of fun, so they started development on a team-based zombie survival shooter. In the 2023 Valve leaks, one of the maps that were found was Zombie City, which was the first map ever made for Left 4 Dead. Reply Your Brains. Reply Your Brains, or Your Brains, is a comedy song by Jonathan Colton. It's probably most well known from its Easter egg in Left 4 Dead 2. Jukeboxes found in some levels can play this song randomly, and when this song reaches the chorus, it'll summon a horde of zombies. Nothing too deep here that I know of. I just put it in this tier because I think it's lesser known than something like Zombies on Your Lawn. Sankarea. Sankarea, or Sankarea Undying Love, is an anime and manga series where this guy who loves horror reanimates this girl because she fell off a cliff. The anime is only 12 episodes, but the story continues in the manga. It's a really sweet and wholesome story, despite the disturbing premise. It's one of my favorite anime, easily in the top 5, and within like the first 5 minutes of the show there's already a Shaun of the Dead reference. It's truly a hidden gem. Zombies ahead. What this is referring to is when someone gains access to one of those road indicator signs, the most common joke is to put zombies ahead or some warning about zombies on the sign. It's a relatively harmless gag, but it's still illegal. I'll come back to fake zombie alerts deeper down on the iceberg. Night of the Living Dead. Created by George Romero in 1968, Night of the Living Dead is basically considered the grandfather of all zombie stories. Most games and movies borrow at least one concept that was popularized by this movie. This is the first mainstream zombie movie, and it's permeated pop culture ever since. The only reason I placed it this low is because I don't think anyone's actually watched it. Plague Inc. Not Another Zombie Game achievement. In the game Plague Inc., there's different types of diseases you can choose to play as, such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, prion, and they all have different abilities and playstyles. Some of the more outlandish plagues: an ancient vampire virus, a mind control worm, simian flu, and the necrovirus. The necrovirus's gimmick is that it can reanimate people if you evolve a certain symptom. Once you evolve the ability to create zombies, the cure is basically rendered useless, and the gameplay shifts to you in an arms race with the world's military, trying to create more dangerous zombies. The achievement Not Another Zombie Game is one of the hardest achievements in Plague Inc. To earn it, the player has to destroy the world without ever creating a single zombie. The necrovirus is very weak, and it's the easiest disease to cure, so it basically requires good RNG. Gakogurashi. You've basically already been spoiled just by the fact that it's on this iceberg. Gakogurashi, or School Live, appears to be your average modern high school anime, but it quickly reveals its true colors. This group of friends has narrowly survived the zombie apocalypse, and they've fortified their school to live in it. One of them is delusional and completely unaware of the zombies. There's a few sad moments, but don't worry, none of them die. Overall, it's a nice show. Only 12 episodes. If I had a nickel for every zombie anime I watched that never got a season 2, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Nicktoons Halloween bumper. This is referring to a recently rediscovered Nicktoons commercial that aired around the early 2010s. What was strange about this is how vividly people remembered it. I guess most people were really young when they first saw this because everyone described it as being terrifying. The commercial was random characters like Cosmo and Wanda, Mighty V, Fanboy and Chum Chum, just green and rotting, and some of them were missing eyes or had bones exposed. When I first heard people talking about this lost media, I thought it had to be fake, but when it was found and uploaded to the internet a few months ago, it was exactly as creepy as people remembered. Cockneys vs. Zombies. Cockneys vs. Zombies is another British comedic zombie movie in a similar vein to Shaun of the Dead. In it, some robbers are trying to save the nursing home that their grandfather's in, but then the zombie apocalypse happens and they have to help a bunch of old people fight zombies. It only made about 109,000 at the box office worldwide. I've seen this one and it's pretty funny and underrated. Original Haiti legend. So prior to Night of the Living Dead, every mention of a zombie was of the mind control type. In Haitian folklore, there are people called a bokor, who are basically sorcerers or witches who can do necromancy. Through a concoction of toxins, they could make someone enter a near comatose state, and the people affected were so delirious and drugged up that they could be told to do anything. In 1937, author Zora Neale Hurston actually may have encountered a woman who was a zombie while she was in Haiti. A woman mysteriously appeared in the village, and a family who lived there recognized her as someone who had died 30 years before. Zora Neale Hurston also believed that they were doing this with some sort of psychotic drug, but no one would explain it to her. Rolang. I actually found out about these from a Wendigoon video. Basically, a Rolang is a Himalayan zombie, and the supernatural thing about them is that There's different types of them. This isn't your average everyday zombie that you can destroy their brain or cut off their head to kill them. This is an advanced zombie. They're immortal, but all of them have a weakness. Some of them you have to cut their skin to kill them, some of them you have to break a bone to kill them, and some of them have a mole somewhere on their body that you need to find to kill them. Some tour guides in the Himalayas claim they've seen them just standing in the distance. Flesh Eater. Flesh Eater was a 1988 indie movie. It was written and produced by Bill Hinsman, who was an actor for one of the zombies in Night of the Living Dead, and he also plays the titular Flesh Eater in this movie. It's kind of obscure and only has a 2.5 star rating. I just thought I'd throw it on here so you could check it out yourself. White Zombie. This one's not referring to the band, this is referring to the old black and white film, which they probably were inspired by this movie. White Zombie was notable because it was the very first zombie movie ever. This movie would be like the grandfather of Night of the Living Dead. The plot of this movie is a couple goes to Haiti, and they stay in this castle, and an absolute villain takes interest in them. The man asks him for help, so this despicable wizard gives him a potion, and then he finds out he's been duped when his girlfriend turns into a zombie. This movie is super old and it's public domain now, so you can watch the whole thing on its Wikipedia page. 2012 Miami zombie incident. This is one of those events that if you're around for it, you probably feel like everyone knows about it, but it's hard to find anything about it now. On May 26, 2012, a man named Rudy Eugene attacked a homeless man and basically ate his face off. And for a few days, no one really knew why he did it, so there was a rumor that there was like a zombie virus, or that he had rabies or some mental condition. When police arrived at the scene, they immediately shot him 3 times and he died. His victim, however, survived and made a full recovery. Revenants. Revenants are an old European legend, mostly in French, Irish, Celtic, and Nordic folklore. These are also pretty closely related to vampires in that before decay was well studied, people believed corpses who had blood around their mouths were literally just because they got up and attacked someone. So there were a ton of extra things you had to do when you buried someone to make sure they couldn't come back. There really were written accounts in the 1100s of like people getting attacked by revenants or dying overnight. I don't know. If we found out zombies aren't real, then maybe werewolves were the one doing it. Montana zombie alert. In 2013, in the town of Great Falls, Montana, a regular afternoon news block was hijacked by an alert saying that the dead were rising from their graves. This alert went on for about 2 minutes, complete with an EAS alarm and an announcer explaining what to do. They still have not found the perpetrators, and this was probably pretty scary for anyone who was watching TV live at the time.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available. Do not attempt to approach or apprehend these bodies as they are considered extremely dangerous.
Cotard delusion. This is referring to a psychological condition where the patient either thinks they don't have a body, or that they themselves are dead, or that one of their limbs are missing, even though they're completely fine. Basically, people who have this think they're undead or already in an afterlife. This can randomly develop in people who are sick or after a severe accident. It's believed to be caused by problems with the brain like lesions or damage to the fusiform gyrus, areas that have to deal with recognizing your own face, and some cases were believed to be an adverse reaction to antivirals, transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. If this sounds scary, good. It basically means a disease that'll rot your brain. This is a family of prion diseases. A prion is a misfolded protein in your body, and for some reason, once a protein is misfolded, it can cause other proteins to misfold, and then the buildup of misfolded proteins becomes toxic. Some ones you may have heard of are mad cow disease, chronic wasting disease, or kuru. These diseases have strange neurological effects, like they can cause animals to just wander around aimlessly or attack each other, and there's no known cure for prion diseases, so you just have to avoid getting it. Prions are spread through infected brain tissue, so you'll be fine as long as you don't eat fried monkey brain for breakfast every day. Seattle zombie woman. This happened pretty recently. There's this video of a lady walking down the street and she's just acting very weird. In the video you can hear her crying and like mumbling to herself, obviously distraught. She's kind of grayish looking and she's missing patches of hair, and there's also blood on her. Literally the witch from Left 4 Dead. And when the police showed up, she goes crazy. It took like 4 cops to hold her down. If you want to see more about this, I recommend Nick Crowley's video. That's the end of this iceberg. Let me know if there's anything I should add to it, because I might do a part 2. This iceberg's not as big as I thought it would be, but I hope you learned something or found this interesting. See you later.